Okay, so our next speaker is Iris Ada. Is a French and a foreign language teacher in Pretoria, South Africa, and a PhD student on Ispekwe.
Ngiyabonga. Sanibonani nonke endlini. Sawubona. Dumela. Awusheli. Hello. Bonjour. So yes, I'm French. I'm going to take you through a journey from my own journey about the writing system. It's a script, and I'm saying for this talk, my stance is that it's a writing system in the making, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. And I'm here to learn from all your inputs. So I'm a PhD student for 2 weeks now. So I'm going to share my wide knowledge about that. So yes, for administrative reasons, I'm just registered. I'm 2 weeks, and I'm still busy looking for my research questions. Yes, so but I'm going to introduce you to this writing system that looks like that. Okay, it makes you dream, that's cool. I could read it for you, but I'm gonna. This is the stickers that we do on WhatsApp. We exchange stickers with friends that speak the language. Yes. Sawubona, Unjani. Hello, how are you? By the way. Sorry, I should have thought about that before. This is my conversation T-shirt. It's in isiZulu, and I'm gonna Sawubona. So, yeah, what it looks like. Oops. Can I come back?
Back is the bottom button.
Okay.
Yeah, that should go back.
But it looks like that. So I must tell you. So I've been living in South Africa for 15 years. I've been teaching French as a foreign language there. I didn't intend on staying that long, about 2 to 3 years to get an idea, and then moved to Brazil, where I was excited to go for plenty reason, diversity of culture and biodiversity and everything. And it happened that South Africa has a reason for me to stay every day. You know, when you've got a feeling when you love someone, you're like, you've got a crush on someone. That happens every day to me in South Africa. So that's kept for 15 years now. I wish I could use that. But yeah. So South Africa has 12 official languages, 11 are written ones, and the 12th one is the sign language. Recently, it's officialized. 11 languages, 9 are African languages. So there's English Afrikaans, and then there is Isindebele, Siswati, Sesotho, isiXhosa, isiZulu, then Xitsonga and Tshivenda. Maybe I'm missing one. And Sepedi. And actually, the languages are in a continuum, or they are considered as a continuum, but they are 9 official African languages. For example, I teach to my students, and I say, well, which language do you master the most, and how many languages do you speak? And they speak about 5 languages that they recognize as official languages, but in between, they speak all the varieties. And so the situation, what is the situation, why do we have 9 official languages? It's the history, and it's the missionaries who arrive in South Africa, and they arrive, and then they say, oh, well, this language is interesting, I'm going to transcribe it through their own languages. And so there were the French ones in Lesotho, and then American wrote the isiZulu language, and then I don't know if it's Tshivenda by Germans, and so there's influence of all these European missionaries or people who wrote, transcribed the languages, the South African languages in Latin alphabet. Now imagine this is the whole Europe. We all use the writing system Latin alphabet in a different way. The way I read French is not the way I read Italian or German or etc. This diversity happens in South Africa. Not at the same level, but still. For example, simply the letter X. The letter X is not pronounced the same way in different languages. It's not read the same way in the different languages. For isiZulu, it's a click, it's a lateral click. For Tshivenda, it's a sh. For Xitsonga, it could be a he, or the contract, depending on the influence of the languages, etc. So I thought my journey was like ours. So the first thing, how did I encounter this writing system? my way of learning a language is to take a paper, a book, anything without understanding and starting reading to have the language in my mouth. How naive is that? But to try to figure out, and along the way that works because I can have the feedback of the people saying, no, this is not how you pronounce that, and etc. So I've done that for Spanish. I remember when I was a teenager, boarding school, I was taking a Spanish paper and I didn't understand anything, but I was reading, but it's easy, consonant, vowel, yes. I had some notion of Isizulu, and Isizulu is very much consonant vowel, and what you see is what you read without any, there's no, yeah, well, it's very simple, consonant vowel, like Spanish. I was reading Chivenda, and I was doing the same thing, and then a friend of mine is a linguist, and he said, no, this is not possible, that you, he was looking at me like, you cannot read Chivenda the way you read Isizulu. Huh? How come? Well, Chivenda has his own way of being read. So I was like, okay, so now what about Chisonga? And he said to me the same thing, you cannot do that. I was like, oh, this is very confusing. So the students of South Africa, they are in multilingual environment, they speak 4 or 5 languages, official languages, and plenty of other ones. But the way they read them is different, and they have to read all of them with a different code. So it's like there's 11 different codes in South Africa. And for the transcribed languages, because there are some that are not standardized, they're not written in the Latin. So how complicated is that? I was like, well, we should have one writing system for, and that's not a very popular idea. There has been plenty of studies and attempts to harmonize among the 2 languages, so the languages of the Zone S, if people were familiar with that in South Africa, to standardize, to harmonize the spelling, the orthography. And people are very attached to the spelling. So that cannot be done. Even though it was an import, it was a colonial transcription, people are like, no. We write Wena, U-E-N-A in Lesotho, and Isizulu is W-E-N-A, and you don't change that. Okay, well, then we stand with differences. In South Africa, there's a problem of literacy. There's the students who are in grade 10, which is between 9 and 10 years old, they cannot read for meaning. But they live in a multicultural environment, in plurilingual. They speak all these languages, but they cannot extract meaning from what they're reading outside. So all that led me, as a teacher, led me to think, well, a writing system, it's not my invention at all, but I got introduced to it. I was like, okay, a writing system. I was monoscriptal before that, yes? It means I read and write, I used to read and write in Latin alphabet only, and that was the one. And I knew, and the other things were like nice little scribble everywhere for the people, for their own language. Anyway, well, I've learned a lot of things. And so this writing style, I say, well, I give it 1 week, okay, maybe 10 days before I declare that it's ridiculous. Because the first thing was like, it's ridiculous. Why would we change into another writing style? We've got Latin alphabet. I was very narrow-minded. And then I took 10 days, and actually I got excited, and I took a bit longer, and actually I'm going to take my book. I'm going to show you my own journey of what I've done. How did I learn this writing system? So first of all, what it looks like, I'm going to show you a bit more pictures. So this is the name of one of my friends, Motei Motlatsi. And this is me playing with colors, because why not? And apparently a lot of people do that. When they learn this writing system, they put colors in it. It can have a meaning. Culturally in Isizulu, they are called love letters and beadworks that have meaning. So if someone gives you a beadwork with some triangles, without the scripting, but with colors, it can mean that it's a love declaration, for example. But me, I'm just playing with the colors. So most of the slides that we're going to see are my own creations. Yes, because it's my journey, I'm taking you with me. It's not very academic. And even the linguistic terms, I haven't acquired them yet. I hope you understand me with my strong accent. So this is Sabelo. I'm going to take you, it's like a picture friends album. Those are the name of my friends, Tsirelezo. So that's how you read it, Tsirelezo. Zukisa. So this evokes faces of my friends, of people like Atlejo. Yes, and I was doing that screen capture of what I was posting in my status on WhatsApp because I was promoting an event about this writing system at Alliance Française of Johannesburg in 2020. So I was like showing to my friends, like, come on, and that time it's amazing. And Kazin and Deepa. And I'm going to explain to you the features. Yes. So as you can see, it's based on triangles and a bit of sign symbol inside of them. So it's much part of the triangles is much part of the culture, the in general African culture, but Southern African culture. You see that on pots, for example. Those are earplugs. Yes. I don't know if there's a meaning, I don't know the meaning, but it's not in the script. These ones are not in the script that I'm showing today. But it shows that this writing system is really much, is part of the ecosystem, the visual ecosystem of South Africa. Okay, I'm gonna, so that is called Litema. Litema are the drawings of on the walls of the houses in Lesotho. It's made by women, and the house is made by women. The drawings are made by women, and the drawings are rotative. But before that, they encrypt some knowledge. So they celebrate an event. For example, a woman became a woman, or got married, or got a child. For example, all of that is written somewhere there. The meaning of the pictures, that's what it means, yes? For the people external like me to the culture, I cannot read that. Yes, I cannot interpret it, but it means something for the people in the village, they will know. So yes, and one of the things is that it's a rotative drawing. So the painting used the same shape and rotate it. And that's part of the explanation I'm going to give you about the writing system, where it comes from, what are all the inspiration of it. The picture is missing about Indaba, my children, but it's shapes of triangle. That means a woman or a girl. The difference, a man that is married, and the shape of the triangles, the two triangles facing each other or in other direction have a meaning of that. So there is very much the expression of this writing system is very much yes, attuned to, but not attuned, but takes inspiration from what already existed as visual patterns. So what is this Sebekle-Somhlamvu or Ditema-Tsa-Dinoko? It's one of the emerging writing systems in Southern Africa, and it's part of what we call that. It's not a movement, well, it's a movement maybe, but private initiative of people who created a writing system. You might recognize them. The screen captures come from Wikipedia. And you may be familiar with Nko, or this one I struggle a bit to pronounce, on the Mandombe, Adlam and Debe. These people, I've spoken to them, and they are alive, they are recent, they are creators. Adlam writing system, I don't know if you know that, but it's two children, teenagers, who were standing by the father. The father was reading the letters at that to the people of the village who could not read and write for themselves. And the father was commenting whether it was written in Latin alphabet or in Arabic alphabet, saying, but those alphabets, they don't match our language, the Pula, the Pearl language. And the kids were listening to that, and they were young, they were teenagers, and they thought, okay, well, they decided to write their own writing system, to create their own writing system. How amazing is that? So it's Adlam, and Adlam, it's the meaning of that, it's close to for our language to not disappear, for people to not disappear. So there's very much of a survival of the specificity of the language. And Debe, it's a fascinating story. I think Lutama is she's Nigerian, she lives in the United States, she was at a boarding school, and she was surrounded by people writing their indigenous writing system, so Korean, Hangul, or Chinese, or Japanese, and she was like, wait, but all these people are writing their own language with their own writing system, and we are Nigerian, and we've got our languages, and we have no writing system, like how come? And there was the CBD writing system that you may know, that was in the movie Black Panther, yes? And so she tried to use the CBD and to create writing system from it, or to make the CBD writing CBD a script used for communication. And she didn't succeed. She really for many years, and she finally decided to create DEB. And the particularity of this, which is fascinating, on the top of the fact that it's beautiful, there's a website with the whole page. There's a very little page of statement of this writing system, and she made sure in her design that the features of the language will be preserved. So in the Latin alphabet, the tones, the people were like, oh, well, we don't care about the tones, and E's and E, that's fine. And they tended to forget what the tones are, and the tones were very important. They are very important here. In this writing system in hers, the tones are so important that the representations are different. So people really have to think about what is really the sound to write it correctly. And another thing that I think is interesting in her writing system is that there are a variety of the language, the Igbo, in different areas, geographic areas, and some places people pronounce M something, and some people pronounce L for the same meaning, yes? And this writing system codes both. It's like you pronounce it the way you pronounce it in your language, basically. Amazing. So, but the writing system I'm presenting you today, well, the script actually is the contrary, is a univocal one. Sorry, the univocal one is a sign represents one sound, and one sound is transcribed with one sign. There's no, I can even write French with it, I can write Spanish, I can write other languages. What I see is what I read. There's no interpretation. It's a phonetic one. The script of Southern Africa, there are several of them. It's not the only one. One by an artist called Willem Boshoff. I have studied it. Anatia DB, it's a cipher of Latin alphabet, and the Isibek Place of Clango is a quite recent one, 2015. It emerged. It was made by a group of designers and linguists. It is made to write the Nguni languages, or the two languages, we call them also. And it has a different name depending on the language. So in Soto, Tswana, Lesotho, we would say Gitematsa Dinoko. So that's it. I don't know the name for this other one yet, for these other languages. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but so those are the languages. Soto, Tswana, Chibana, Shutsonga. Okay, what studies do we have about the Latin alphabet, or what is the reason for the script to have been created? Well, Lotama is the creator of DEB said, well, in English, in Latin alphabet, it's not suited for our language. There was a eye-track movement by a researcher in KwaZulu-Natal, and she concluded that isiZulu written in the Latin alphabet for proficient reader takes twice times, like 50% of the time. People, those languages are agglutinative languages, and they are represented in the conjunctive orthography in the Latin alphabet, so the words can be very long. And evidently for some, compared to English, where the words are much shorter, even, yes, they are very short, the people have to read, and then they have to come back to the meaning of to the beginning of the word. So when they finish the sentence, oh, now they figure out the context, and they have to come back from to the beginning to like, okay, now what that means, you know? So maybe the Latin alphabet is not the best alphabet for the Southern African languages. So this is a part of the chart, and because I'm talking to some linguists here, I've cut the rest, but it's So you've got the line of Isbeke, you've got the line of in the Latin alphabet, which is clear for isiZulu, and you've got in bracket the IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay, so how does it work, this syllabary? So it's a featural syllabary, so it's a syllabary, so it codes the language per syllable, and featural because it gives information about the type of sound that is pronounced or the place of articulation. Just I mean, it's mind-blowing. And it's based on triangle. You know how to draw a triangle? So you will know how to write in this writing system. The position of the triangle indicates the vowel, the quality of the vowel. Yes, so when the triangle, the tip of the triangle faces down, it's an A. On the triangle facing there, it's an O, it's an open O. U, it's a chevron, so it's an open base triangle. Yes, A and I. Yeah. All of that are that is part of the syllables of for the vowel A. The chart is a bit longer, but I cut it for demonstration purposes. But there's 121 or 22 syllables per vowel in isiZulu, and I focus on isiZulu because I'm not familiar in the other languages like Chivan, the other families. So I'm focusing on this one. On this language, which is isiZulu for me. So how does it work? So there are the triangles, and all the signs inside or there are the consonantic. They are coding consonant sounds. Yes. Does it make sense? And if I don't know if we see very well, you can obviously combine the sound. It's like you're taking the IPA chart. Yes, you're taking it and you apply to that. It's really, it's a coding of the IPA chart, I think. For example, you've got the sound s, yes, sta, this is my vowel A, and you're adding the voice, s, and you've got the syllable za. Yeah, so this is the voicing. So for example, and now imagine that I'm doing that with the most simple ones here for trace purposes. I'm sticking to the most basic ones, but actually there is the ha, and then the breathing, the H or that. This thing is it's the breathing sound. When you see a dot, it's a plosive, yes? For people who are familiar with linguistics and more than me, yes. So what would be cool is that at the end of this talk, I don't know how much do I have left.
You've got about 6 minutes left.
Are you kidding?
Really? Oh wow.
I'm going to speed up. It would be good if you write your own name. So you have to think in terms of vowel. What is the first vowel of your name? And you pick it up. So this is isiZulu. In Sotho Swana, there are two more, which are I sound and which are U sound. Well, this one, the closed O, actually. And then you have to think about the consonantic symbols that you have to add. Okay, now let me rush to the end. I hope you're not going to get epilepsy. So it's this rotative, it's a featural geometrical design, and it's based on the litema, which is rotative patterns. And this is the combination of the consonant symbols that, well, it talks by itself. Is that fine? You understand? A, sa, za, and za. So this is obviously the nasal N, based on the IPA chart. And those are all the symbols that you can find in the script that applies to all the other languages, Chivanda, Shitsonga, and all the variety that are not standardized in the Latin alphabet. It's represented by, well, the shape. I think that is the position of the, well, anyway, you understand the curves here, but I can say, okay, I'm going to say that. The curves are the sounds, is that fricative sound or the sound that don't stop? Yes, that's it. So when you see a curve in the script, it means that it's the sound that is fricative. That continues. Okay, so how did I learn? I took this book that you know, that I know very well. I used to teach it, and it's I told you it's a very transparent orthography in the Latin alphabet, and I started to transcribe in this book very slowly, page by page, because I had to learn. So, and I was giving myself 10 days before I was thinking that is too ridiculous to continue. And then I wrote the whole book. Well, not the whole book here, but the whole page here in my notebook. I started with very big ones, like children when they do big letters, and putting colors, support me, and then trying to learn. And it was confusing for me because I'm not a phonetician. I don't have training for that at the beginning, and this is how I had to separate the syllables. I didn't know the principle that the syllable, the N, for example, belongs to the next syllable. Because I'm French, I took the N with the first. As you, I was starting to write like, how can it be handwriting one? What would it look like? Okay, so and I'm showing you the pages of my book, and it's starting to get some shape for now. And that means all the one that I'm missing up, that I cannot remember, that I'm making wrong. So those are the clicks, and it's breathy clicks. It's not or the, so all the things that I'm not familiar with because I'm French. This is my filter. And that's what it still looks like after a while, and I'm really trying to get into the handwriting, like what it would look like if people would write fast. Maybe it would not be readable. What are the readability of this writing system, actually? And okay, me trying to write my name, so E, Ri, and trying to make seals, trying to make more than but t-shirt, but trying to make earrings. Or jewels, like trying to appropriate myself to use it for myself, the script, because so I've got friends who are very clever who can do things on the computer. There's no directionality on this writing system. It can be right to left, left to right, or up and down. This is my earring, how it fits my papers, and okay. Okay, this is my signature in this writing system. If I'm doing cursive, and I don't know what cursive looks like in this writing system or the script yet. I've got very few examples. When we go from one to the other one, this is L and should be separated, but we can see that my line went, my pen went to the next one like that. I'd like to study that, or decided that we should put the things out of the triangle to make a real difference between this one is a S and this one is a D or T. So that is D and that is Z or ZA, DA, and I'm making the curve out of the triangle to show more for the readability actually. If I write fast, that's what it could look like, but it's my own handwriting. So that's when we copy the computer, and when we write by when some people write by hand, that's their decision. That's not my invention, my creation here. And I thought maybe you can use round shape since there's a direction in the consonantic. I'm done. I should stop now. So
you can wrap up.
I'm gonna. Okay, well, I'm busy. So I don't have any research question yet as a PhD student. But there's no handwriting, there's no cursive, there's no convention yet. That's why I was saying that there's no direction either. We can say saubona, we can say saubona, we can say saubona, we can say saubona. All that means hello. But what is there's no decision on the direction yet for this writing, for this script. Sorry, it's me showing to someone the principle of it for people to get very excited and writing in it. For example, that is Reo Maohi. So before that I was writing in Polynesian. The language Te Reo Maohi, and that means moho. It means together in Sesotho. There are jewels, there are sculptures. So there are people who are making things with it. Like it's not just for communication to my knowledge yet. And I don't know how to get to people who would use it for communication. I don't know who does that. Text, for example, in SPK. There's a site, there's a website, there is a Wikipedia article, and there's more and more production online. And that's it. Furniture. This is a whole poem in a console. And Ubuntu and Ubuntu, Gabantu. Ubuntu means that we are the people thanks to the people around us. And that's it. Siabonga.